answer. So during your victory speech, your main point was fighting corruption in Pakistan and powering the economy. How is your government aiming to ensure transparency so you can revive the investors' confidence in Pakistan and investing in Pakistan?
Firstly, Lubna, you must understand that corruption is what makes a country poor. Corruption is the main difference between the developed world and the developing world. Countries are not poor because they lack resources. For instance, Congo has so many resources. It's one of the most resource-rich area in the world, as opposed to Switzerland, which comparatively hardly has any resources. The difference is that what corruption does is, it does two things. One, it destroys state institutions. When the ruling elite is corrupt, it can only make money by destroying all those institutions that are check and balance in the way of corruption. And secondly, corruption diverts money from human development to mega projects which give mega kickbacks, which leave a country indebted. So Switzerland is one of the most prosperous countries in the world because it has very good governance. It has strong state institutions, and it uses the money to develop its human resources. So in Pakistan, the challenge is, how do we strengthen our institutions enough to make it impossible for people to be corrupt, or corruption at a level which is manageable? And secondly, divert the resources to develop our human resources. This is the challenge of Pakistan. So what we've been trying to do since we've been 60 days in power is to strengthen the state institutions, develop meritocracy. The reasons why state institutions get destroyed is because cronies have been put in key positions who then, once there is no meritocracy in a state institution and there's no rule of law, the state institutions do not prevent anyone from stealing money from the country. So this has been the main agenda of our party. And then secondly, to prioritize institutions that will help the exporters. So hence, we have made all the laws at the moment to help our exporters.
Unemployment also is a main concern for you. You've been very concerned about youth unemployment, training youth to be able to find jobs and creating jobs. Tell us more about the agenda in that particular field.
Pakistan has 100 million people below the age of 35.
Yes.
Now, in one way, that's a huge opportunity. But secondly, it is a big pressure on the government to find employment for this young population. We have embarked on a very ambitious program. Pakistan has 10 million shortage of houses. So we have embarked on this program that in the first 5 years, we will build 5 million houses. And so hence creating all the conditions, removing all the red tape that comes into the housing sector. Also, of course, trying to attract foreign investment for this housing. At the same time, apart from the housing, what we are trying to do is create the enabling environment for investment. One of Pakistan's strengths are the overseas Pakistanis. We have, as I said before, 8 to 9 million Pakistanis working abroad. We have, if we create the enabling environment, we will then be able to attract their investment. If you see the growth of China and India, one of the biggest, the first people who invested were the overseas Indians and overseas Chinese who came back. So we have this big resource lying outside Pakistan. Our main effort is to create the enabling environment, make it easy to do business, the ease of doing business, bringing down the cost of doing business, and attracting this investment.
Speaking of China, you've always spoke about how good China is in bringing 700 million people out of poverty. And I think the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, or what you call CPEC, is being debated a lot lately. I would like to understand more about it from a Pakistan angle.
First of all, let me just say two things about China, which for Pakistanis is very attractive. One is that China is the only country in human history which brought out 700 million people out of poverty in 30 years. Secondly, China has, in the last 5-6 years, really clamped down on corruption. In the last 4 years, I think they convicted about 415 government ministers in corruption cases. So these are the two problems which face Pakistan. We have corruption, and so we are going to look for ways, because white-collar crime is very difficult, especially in our countries, to catch, because we do not have the people.
Absolutely.
We do not have those who understand, who can convict white-collar criminals. So we are going to get help from China. And secondly, all the ways, the way they have brought this huge amount of humanity out of poverty. So poverty alleviation is the second thing which we learn from China, and I'm going there next month. So we hope to, we've already asked the Chinese government to help us in these two areas. CPEC is a great opportunity for Pakistan. CPEC connects us to China, which is one of the biggest markets. Because of CPEC, we are developing Gwadar, which is, after Singapore, the second deepest port. And because of CPEC, we are developing these special economic zones where we will invite investments from all over. So hence, provided we get our governance structure right, CPEC is a great opportunity for Pakistan.
And actually, that leads to my second question, that this whole collaboration with China, how can it help Pakistan bring more international investors?
Well, simply because China, A, is a huge market. Secondly, the CPEC is this route which connects us, China, right down to Gwadar. So we have all this opportunity with these special economic zones to invite people. It gives a great opportunity for investment. And remember Pakistan's strategic position. It is sitting next to two of the biggest markets, India on one side, China there, and then, of course, inshallah, when peace returns to Afghanistan, then we have this all the way to Central Asia. So Pakistan is strategically probably one of those countries blessed. It is placed in one of the great positions in the geography of the world.
And actually, I would like to comment on this point, but because rightly so, like Pakistan is very well placed to connect Central Asia, Middle East, China, and the Eastern markets. Do you have a plan to leverage on that natural advantage?
The plan is to create the enabling environment in Pakistan so that we can attract investors. Not just foreign investors, not just overseas Pakistani investors, even our own investors who, unfortunately, because of our poor governance system, were not really investing in Pakistan. We didn't even give them enough incentives, and I'm talking about Pakistani investors. So we are restructuring our duty structure. We are our tax incentives. We are restructuring everything so to incentivize people to invest.
What are the sectors that you think investors would be more interested in Pakistan?
Minerals. There are vast amount of mineral wealth lying in Pakistan. Coal, we have one of the biggest coal reserves in the world. We have copper reserves, one of the biggest copper reserves. Zinc. We have a lot of areas of gas which have not been explored at all. But then we have tourism. You see, Pakistan is one of the most diverse countries in the world. Pakistan starts with alpine in the north. We have alpine climate. And then from the highest, which is the second highest mountain in the world, which is K2, we go on to the sea. We have 12 climatic zones on the way. So we have, tourism has exploded in Pakistan. our infrastructure cannot cope with the tourists. So that's one of the biggest opportunities to invest in our country. And then we have three types of tourism. We have religious tourism. North of Pakistan was the center of the Buddhist civilization. We have the oldest civilization in the world, which is the Indus Valley civilization in Mohenjo-daro. Peshawar is one of the oldest living cities in the world, 2,500 years old. Lahore, also one of the ancient cities. So Pakistan is a diverse country. It's unfortunately because of the war on terror, last 13, 14 years, we had this turmoil where tourism disappeared. But in the last 2 years, we have all records of tourism have been broken in our country. So that's a great area to invest.
So you've mentioned 2 points, tourism and energy. You've spoken enough about tourism and what should happen and how the investment should be. But on
housing is also, of course, 5 million houses we are building. That's another area we're expecting investment from abroad.
Let me talk about energy, because I think finding a sustainable fuel and gas supply by investing in Pakistan's own production is vital for your economy. What's your plan to reducing energy dependency and really inviting international investors and local investors to invest in that particular field?
You see, we have hardly had any investment in our mineral resources. And one of the reasons, as I said again, in the last 15 years, was this war on terror, where we became the center of terrorism, suicide attacks, and so investors would not come to Pakistan. Then we had last 10 years very poor governance, corruption. We did not give enough incentives for investors to come to our country. Now, thanks to our security forces, our intelligence agencies, Pakistan has controlled terrorism. It's within Pakistan now, we have really clamped down on terrorism. It's very secure. We still have problems, terrorism coming from Afghanistan, but that's why we are hoping that these peace talks, hopefully peace talks between Taliban and the Americans, we hope that once Afghanistan settles, then not only will there be no terrorism within Pakistan, but then we have this access all the way to Central Asia. So we did not have investment coming into our gas, into our other minerals, because we had turmoil in our country. Now with peace and stability, we have people coming in. We have some of the big giants in the energy sector now showing interest. In fact, in December, I think Exxon is coming in Pakistan. They're coming back to Pakistan. And also we want to give incentives for the people in the investors in the energy sector to come and invest in our country.
Your Excellency, from here, from the FII, what message do you want to give the world about Pakistan?
The message is that Pakistan is a country with great potential. In the 60s, Pakistan was growing faster than almost any country in Asia, and that's because we had the best governance system. We unfortunately lost our way. In the 80s, we ended up in what was the Afghan Jihad. We then had remnants of the Afghan Jihad throughout the 90s. 9/11, post 9/11, we suffered from terrorism. And then our governance system also, unfortunately, did not enable us to attract investment. Now, Pakistan, in my opinion, is ready. I repeat, the biggest resource in Pakistan are the 100 million Pakistanis below the age of 35. It's a huge potential in the country. We have a diverse, mineral-rich country, one of the most fertile lands in the Indus Valley Basin. So today, the country stands where it is probably right now is the best time for investors to come to our country.
Thank you very much. I'm going to open the floor now for some questions. We've got around 10 minutes. So if you have any questions, please just mention your name and your institution. We've got some mics.